The ending of the most recent SmackDown episode has caused a great deal of drama within the women's division. More specifically, between Charlotte Flair and Becky Lynch. I'm sure many of you who clicked onto this video have a pretty good idea of the story, but I will quickly summarize it for anyone who is unaware. Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair were involved in the main event segment where both ladies were swapping their championship titles. Becky Lynch was the SmackDown Women's Champion while being drafted over to Raw a few weeks ago. Meanwhile, Charlotte Flair was holding on to the Raw Women's title while being a SmackDown superstar. As you can see, the WWE creative team was in a real pickle. They had to come up with an idea that would move the titles to the different brands. There are honestly so many different ways that this could have gone. For example, both women could have lost their championships within the last few weeks. Or maybe they could have been drafted to the same brand of the championship that they were holding. That would have been a little wise. Those are just some of the many ideas, but instead, the WWE went with possibly the worst idea out of all of them. Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair were told to head inside the ring and just swap their titles. That is easily the worst idea of all. It's just so lazy and stupid. I remember the Street Profits and the New Day did the same thing in the past, and I was not a fan of that either, but it's not good that the WWE is getting comfortable with this option. Because of that horrific idea, Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair were understandably upset. They wanted to come up with something different. Heck, even Charlotte Flair pitched the idea of dropping the title to Bianca Belair on Monday Night Raw. And she was totally fine with that idea because it did not make the championship reign look like a joke. The WWE officials did not change their mind. They were adamant about having this stupid angle happen. And so, Becky Lynch and Charlotte both got into the ring, and while they were supposed to hand each other their respective titles, Charlotte dropped her belt. And that was just straight up disrespectful and made Becky Lynch look like a dweeb, if I'm being completely real with you guys. Thankfully though, Becky Lynch didn't just take it. No, she decided to toss her title at Charlotte. And when I say toss, I actually mean she beamed it at her. She threw it OD hard. And she wanted to reciprocate that disrespect. It was such a disastrous segment that you could even see Michael Cole visibly frustrated because he most likely had Vince McMahon screaming into his ear. It was a mess. Things got even worse when they headed to the back locker room. Becky Lynch and Charlotte got into a heated argument right in front of Vince McMahon and Bruce Pritchard. It got so intense that security needed to escort Charlotte out of the building. And McMahon was also very unhappy with the fact that Charlotte did not speak to him after the fight and she decided to just leave. That's when she flew over to Orlando to see Andrade at the AEW show, and the entire situation just sounds so bizarre. It is actually wild that all of this transpired. What's even more interesting is that more and more reports are coming out, with many employees being unhappy or exposing things about Charlotte. Things are not looking good for Flair at all, and so in today's video, I'm going to analyze both Charlotte and Becky's side, and then give you my final verdict on this entire debacle on who I think was right and wrong between them. And with all that being said, let's jump right into it. I think it's probably best to talk about Charlotte Flair first, since there is so much to unpack about her. Ever since coming back to the WWE this year after missing WrestleMania, Charlotte has been acting a little strange. Even the promo on the Raw after Mania, it was literally her calling out the entire women's roster. She went off discussing how the women in the back were glad that she didn't compete at WrestleMania, but that didn't matter because she was back and she was ready to take the spotlight again. And Charlotte was right because a couple of months later, she would win the Raw Women's belt after defeating Rhea Ripley at Money in the Bank. That pretty much killed Rhea Ripley's momentum. Many thought that this was going to be the title reign that would take her to the next level, similar to how it did with Bianca Belair on SmackDown this year, but Flair kind of ruined it. What's even more odd was that she lost the title that same day to Nikki Cross after a cash-in. You would think that this would lead to a long Nikki Cross title reign, but that wasn't the case. Again, Charlotte came back into the mix and would beat her for it in a few weeks. It seemed like Flair won the belt for that one day in order to boost her championship title reigns and bring that number up. This seems to make the report of her going into the business for herself even more true. Charlotte is obviously aware of the fact that she has a good amount of power within the WWE because of her value. Vince McMahon has been building up this woman as the top female in the women's division since 2015, and she's also the daughter of Ric Flair, which only makes her more important because of her last name and that prestige that she has to it. It appears that Charlotte is abusing the power to remain on the top of the card. That's not the only time she's been abusing her power. She also flipped off a crowd that was chanting for Becky Lynch and nothing happened to her. Then she got into a real shoot fight with Nia Jax and again, nothing happened. And now she's gotten into this beef with Becky Lynch, and I'm hoping that something does happen this time around because she's been a loose cannon as of late. Charlotte is acting like she runs the WWE, and that just is not the case. On a side note though, if this is all a storyline, then that is just great. Like, just imagine everything that happened is kayfabe and it was all planned to set up a Survivor Series champion versus champion match. That would be awesome, but there's definitely no way that that is the case because the WWE would not try this hard. But just imagine, that would be probably amazing. Anyways, I'm going to assume that this is real and say that Charlotte has been acting very immature and reckless at the same time. On the other hand, we have Becky Lynch, who is in the middle of all of this because she was the SmackDown Women's Champion, and I think that Becky Lynch handled the entire controversy in the best way possible. She was not happy about the decision to go forward with this swapping title idea, but she still went out there and wanted to be civil about it. And after getting disrespected by Charlotte Flair, she had every right to launch that belt at her. I'm not gonna lie, the entire segment did make Lynch look really bad and weak. Therefore, it was a really good call for her to stand up for herself despite what would have happened afterwards. Even the backstage officials are on her side. I think she did nothing wrong. There really isn't anything else to say about Becky Lynch at this point because she was just there, she did the right thing, she didn't do anything else. I think this is an easy verdict to make. Charlotte is obviously totally in the wrong, and Becky Lynch was definitely right in this situation. I do think though it's more important and concerning when looking at Charlotte Flair. She's been acting up and it makes you wonder what could be the reasoning behind it. Is this all going to lead to her joining All Elite Wrestling in the future? And even if you are Tony Khan, would you really want to add someone like this onto your roster? Sometimes it is better to not sign a huge name like this that could become a cancer to the locker room, especially for something like AEW where they're like a family. It will be interesting to see how all of this goes down. Anyways, that is it for the video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I hope y'all enjoyed. If you did, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe for more. Let me know your thoughts on Charlotte Flair in the comments below. Do you think that this is all going to lead to her getting let go by WWE, or is it just being blown out of proportion? Let me know. And on the screen right now are some other videos that you should totally check out if you have some free time. So go ahead and click one of them. I will see you all in the next video.